Let's say 25 minutes. I'm not going to take 25 minutes. Got 25 minutes left on this SD card. And I say I'm not going to take 25 minutes. But I love to talk. But I'm actually tired. So maybe I won't love to talk today. Hey y'all, it's Ashley at the Realm of Kidlit Comics, and I'm back today in a place where we discuss everything Kidlit, graphic novels, manga, and comics. And I have a video schedule. If y'all haven't started to notice, I had to come up with a video schedule because the sporadic and chaotic thing of filming was not working for me, right? Everything else in my personal life, well, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say everything, but a good portion of other things in my life are very much so set on a nice timetable, on a nice little schedule. And for some reason, filming was never that for me. I was like, shoot, I'll film what I'm going to film. But since I've been vlogging, it's been easier for me to keep that mindset of I vlog throughout the week. That video goes up on Sunday, and I have a sit down video that will typically go up on Thursdays. Is there potential sometimes for me to throw in a Tuesday video? Probably, very rarely, but right now the Thursday Sunday schedule worked for me the entire month of June and has worked for me so far in July, and I think I'm just going to keep that pace because I'm actually quite enjoying it. Like, it's a whole vibration. I love it. So when I went to go make a decision about Thursday's video, because ironically I have all of my content planned for every Thursday of this month, this was the 1 week where I was like, dang, I didn't put anything on my content planning calendar. I have no idea what I want to do. And I was like, I haven't done a discussion video in a long time. And I waffle back and forth about talking about book banning. I was like, I just don't have the energy. And I know it's kind of like awkward for me to be like, I don't have the energy. The reason why I don't have the energy is because literally it is a day-to-day conversation, y'all. Like, I don't go without talking about the crisis that libraries are in. I am hyper aware of all of it. It is a part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's what we are constantly thinking about. And it's like I want to do like the online stuff, but I know what is being done by me on the back end, and it's not something that I want to make my entire personality. And I mean that in a joking way, because I think there are some amazing content creators who are doing the legwork on a social media perspective that I just don't have the capacity for right now. So I thought about that, I waffled about it, and then I was like, you know what? It's almost in tandem with book banning, but not exactly. And something that I find interesting in being a part of an online bookish space, right? And this is something I've talked about to people who work in librarianship, and the contrast in librarianship and then like what happens on the internet, and not necessarily just with Kidlit, but also with like adult stuff too, and what we perceive to be reality in our bubble is not what is happening outside of our bubble. But one thing that I have noticed, and this is not just one incident, this is not something that just happened this week. This is not, if you're coming here because you thought this was going to be booktube, book talk, bookstagram drama, I'm not feeding it to you. I'm so sorry. But it is a pattern. Something that I have regularly noticed in being a part of online spaces is the sometimes lack of respect that Kidlit can get in bookish online spaces, right? The ways in which people talk about Kidlit is very fascinating, and it ties closely into the video that I did where I was talking about the changing of teen literature and how now it almost feels like a big portion of it is being catered to adults that are the same age as me, and how we treat that content, how we talk about that content impacts the kids that it's actually supposed to serve. I think that the first time that I really saw like kind of negative feelings or vibes about Kidlit, and when I say Kidlit is 0 to 18, right? And I know that 18 number is probably like, huh? Like what? But typically when we're talking about teen literature, it is categorized. I did a whole video on this. I will link it in the card symbol above if you need to go, check. 12 to 18 is that age range. So I am saying 0 to 18 when I am talking specifically about kid lit. As a matter of fact, teen literature, when we're talking like bestseller list, is looped into children's, because they are in fact still children. Even though yes, they're teenagers, but they are still minors. They are children. So I think one of the ways in which I've kind of seen some kind of negativity around it is about the amount of books. That's where it started. How many books people read, right? Oh, you're only reading that much because you read children's books, or you're reading picture books, or you're reading graphic novels, or you're reading comics. And I'm like, that's so disrespectful. And I get the intention, right? The intention is that the effort that it goes into reading a 600-page epic fantasy written for adults is not going to be the same as going into a 250, 300-page fantasy written for a middle grade audience, right? They're not going to be the same because they're two different reading levels, right? They're going to be approached very differently because they're intended for two different audiences. That being said, here's the point that I always like to make, and I'm going to preface this by saying, if kidlit is not your thing, this is not me trying to convince you or force you to pick up a children's book or a teen book. If it's not your lane, I actually would prefer you to stay out of it, right? Because when people hop into lanes that don't belong to them, they often end up not approaching it from the appropriate lens, which is why I see some adults who read middle grade and they decimate it. And not saying that children's literature is not worthy of critique, because that's even something that I had to learn, right? Just because it's written for a certain intended audience does not mean that it is above critique. However, the way in which you critique it should be a different approach, because you always have to remember that you are in fact not the intended audience. And a lot of times adults will step into this kidlit arena and they in fact do not recognize that they're not the intended audience. I can't believe they're acting like this. Like, oh my gosh, why are you acting like so childish? Beloved, I'm going to hold your hand with a napkin when I say this. They are in fact children. The characters are children. I'm sorry. But I think that I say all this to say that children's literature is just as worthy as adult literature. And by phrasing things like, oh, you're just reading, children's books, it's almost like it's degrading. Not almost, it's degrading. It's degrading to the authors. It's degrading, I think, to the age group. I think it takes away from the beauty that is children's literature. I know for a lot of people who now, this new wave of readers that are coming into the book community, they are discovering reading either again for the first time or discovering reading for the first time at all, right? Outside of assigned reading maybe that they had to do in K through 12 or post-secondary. However, for some of us, reading started at a younger age, and it is a privilege that I recognize. And so there is beauty in children's literature. It is just as sophisticated. It is just as important. It is just as well written. It is just as necessary to the landscape of literature as a whole as the next popping romantasy book that we all flock to. I say we, not really we, but that the community tends to flock to when it hits the shelves. Children's literature, kidlit, is magical, right? I have had some of my most emotional, joyous, fulfilling moments in children's literature. There is a certain innocence that comes with it that is reminiscent for me of childhood when things were, a lot simpler. And that's not to say that these books don't tackle tough issues, right? I think that They do. They tackle very complex issues that I think as adults, we have a tendency to forget we even went through, right? Especially like, I think middle grade is one of those arenas that does it so well, because it's that weird time when a lot of kids are hitting puberty, a lot of kids are in late elementary, middle school age, and life gets weird at that point. It is weird. Life gets really janky at that point. You're kind of a kid, you're kind of a tween, but then kind of a teenager, but you really don't want to grow up. I think I read it somewhere, I heard it somewhere, where someone said that when kids get to that age, it's almost like they go backwards. They revert to what we see when they're like toddlers. And when I tell y'all, I'm not prepared for that. I'm not prepared for that, right? Because we're past our toddler phase, and yet I feel like I'm in it for another toddler phase. But the sophistication I think that we have, or we expect sometimes, that comes with adult literature is often not given to children's literature. I think when people think children's literature, they think immature, they think simplistic, and there's a part of me that understands the simplicity aspect because of the writing and the reading level that the author is catering to. But sometimes I think that words like using like, oh, this is so juvenile, this is so childish, or this is so young, and it's almost like, I think part of me gets a little frustrated when people do things like that, because when you're picking up this book, did you not know who the intended audience was? Are we confused on who the intended audience is? Like, do we need like a lesson on like age categories and how they work and how best to tell like what age group a book is best suited for? But going into a children's book, and making commentary like that, it does take away from the beauty that is kidlit, right? Kidlit does not get as big of a push on social media as other. If you heard my stomach rumble, I am so sorry. Don't know why. But social media doesn't cater to the kidlit arena the same way it does every other age group, right? There are some very large kidlit creators. I follow a lot, primarily on Instagram, and I follow a lot of them, and they put out great materials, and a lot of them, I think, and even with some of my engagement, you could tell, we get a lot of follows from people who are parents or caregivers and educators, people who are interested in reading kidlit, but it doesn't blow up the same way, right? And it hurts my soul a little bit, and I get it, because everybody is not going to gravitate towards kidlit at all. That's not necessarily what they're looking for, and everybody can have their preferences, but there's so much to be said about its lack of exposure, I think, to the greater bookish community, and these misconceptions that people often have about kidlit. Because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, real talk, let me tell you something. There are some middle grade fantasies that will knock your fantasy romances out the water every single time. Every single time. Writing, character, plot development, I mean, would lay them flat out. If it was a one-on-one match, your fantasy romance is getting, or slash romantasy is getting laid out easily. And so I wanted just to quickly really state that I want people to remember and to understand that children's literature is just as valuable. If it's not for you, if it's not your preference, that's fine. Everyone has their preferences. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. But don't treat it like it's the ugly side piece. Like, don't do that, because it's not. It is just as valuable. It is what we give to kids in hopes that they are a better generation than the rest of us, right? This is why, and this is where the whole book banning thing comes in, right? I don't want to see kidlit getting devalued by whether intentional or not, because a lot of times I do not feel like it is intentional. It is just a thing that happens. I don't think anybody is. I think some people have been malicious about it, especially the people who like to clock what other people are reading, which I think is really weird. Like, mind the business that pays you. If it's not paying you, why do you care so much? But I think that some people, it's not malicious, it's not intentional, it's just a thing that happens, and people may not necessarily be aware. But what I don't want to happen, and this is the parallel with book banning, is that community-wise, we get into this habit of not seeing children's literature as valuable, and that is what's getting targeted right now, right? They are stripping these kids of access to these books where they're able to see themselves and experiences of other people. And I am a firm believer, as are I think a lot of readers, a lot of librarians, educators, reading builds empathy, right? You're able to develop those critical thinking skills, those that the knowledge of the world, the ability to be able to be in a room of diverse people and be fine, and not not know how to function because you haven't been exposed to any of those things. So it's hard, because it's like we already are getting kind of demeaned and trashed enough, and I say we because I feel like that's my role and my job, and I'm a huge advocate for kidlit. I'm a huge advocate for reading kidlit and understanding what these kids are experiencing, understanding why it's so important and how it helps them developmentally. And if we as a community don't respect it, I don't really think that the outside world is going to respect it either. You know what I'm saying? This is not a plea or a call for people to be like, you need to start reading more kidlit. Once again, and I feel like, I'm being redundant and I'm saying this a lot because I need to make sure that people hear this, because somebody's going to watch this video and take it as Ashley saying that we all need to read kidlit. That's not what I'm saying. The same way that, like, I have a very difficult time reading sci-fi. I have a very difficult time reading horror. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter the age group. It usually shocks me when I'm reading sci-fi and horror because I'm like, that's not my lane. Like, I don't know much about the genre. And we're not talking about genres here, we're talking about age groups, but same principle applied where, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But also the phrasing of, oh, you just read a lot of kid books. Oh, you read a lot of picture books. That's why simple things like that, it's hard for me because I'm like, and so what? Not even about the numbers and reading, but reading is reading, and kids' books are just as good, if not better in some situations. And so I just want to make sure that people understand that they too are deserving of respect and consideration and praise and criticism when necessary. But no one is above the other. The difference between the two is intended audience, which deals with reading level and content. Like, really, if good storytelling is good storytelling. Really, it really is. Good storytelling is good storytelling. And these books are foundational to our children, whether you have children or not, right? These kids will be the next generation. This is important. These kids they're losing access. COVID jacked them up. They're struggling with reading. Kid literature right now is more important than anything that I could think of, right? And so sometimes coming across things like that where you feel like it's not as valid, it's like, oh, my friends, it's tough. It's a tough thing to process. And I rambled because I did not do any type of notes. I don't, with discussion videos, I don't ever do any type of notations or well, sometimes I'll do like what's it called? An outline. But girl, ain't nobody got time for an outline. I just want everyone to, give respect where respect is due. I mean, damn, did y'all know that there's a picture book, Goodnight Moon? Margaret Wise Brown, if you've ever read the book Goodnight Moon, like, that picture book is the foundation of how picture books existing as they exist now. Like, that is one of the most pivotal pieces of children's literature. Do you know that that book contains every phonetic sound in the English language? Just Goodnight Moon alone. So when I say, like, kids literature is important, it is. It's how you all learn to read. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's how you learn how to read. Whether you go back to it or not, your foundation, where you got to, where you're at right now, picking up the hottest romantasy on the market, you started with picture books, board books, beginner readers, kids chapter books, middle grade books. Maybe some of y'all still reading teen books thinking they're written for you. So, I mean, I had to throw a little shade in there. But yeah, there's not much else to add to this, really, honestly. This is just my plea. Please respect kids literature. It's under fire right now. And I don't want to see the possibility of adding fuel to the fire. As an adult who adores kids literature, I read a lot of it. Predominantly, that's what I read. I do read adult books, but predominantly I read kid lit, and I'm a huge advocate for it. Like, if you're even curious about it, give it a go. It'll bring back some nostalgia, or it'll bring back or help you generate new memories, new appreciation for books, because there are some great ones out there. But either way, that's all I say. Might drop. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the description box below. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. If you're looking for ways to support this channel, all those will be down in the description box as well. And I will be back with another video soon. Bye.